Standards for these contraptions. As you're moving through these contraption squats, what do we want to see? And the first thing that I really want to confirm is that I want you moving through that full range of motion. We've talked about full range of motion squat before, and a lot of times what happens is, or well, in most cases what happens is coaches will teach the squat, and once that athlete, their back starts to round or they start to see a butt wink, they will stop the range of motion. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a wrong answer. But the purpose in the elevation and the contraption as a whole is to teach you and develop your full range of motion squat. So I don't want to hesitate to go to a full range of motion and get you in a habit of doing that. So what we want is full range of motion on every single rep. Now, we want quality within that, so I'm going to talk about here in a minute what we want to see, or what we do if the quality isn't there, and what lack of quality really means within that full range of motion. But taking those joints, getting your hips as low as possible, taking your ankle to its in range, taking your knee to its in range, and all that good stuff, okay? So within that full range of motion, one thing that I see a lot, especially on elevation, is people just using the plates to set back further. What this is really doing is, if you see where the in range, so my knees are out, but the in range of my ankle is on the level surface, so I have a shin angle. So if I'm on elevation, I should have more of a shin angle, okay? So now, I'm on the elevation, and I should have more of a shin angle. I don't want to just use the plates to set back further like this. So you see I have less of a shin angle, and you can get away with that. You can typically you can set back further and still be in a full range of motion quality squat position, but that's not what we're looking for. We're trying to train those in ranges, and so just make sure that you're not doing that. That's a very common one. Make sure that you're paying attention and not doing that one, okay? Again, sinking as low as possible, and sinking as low as possible, especially with elevation. What that's allowing you to do is trying to find that more relaxed position. Again, we want to stay tight. We want to stay tight where we need to stay tight, tighten the core, keeping the back tight, but we want to relax in the quads and or the hamstring, depending on the individual, what you're going to feel there, but trying to get to more of that relaxed position that allows you to get as low as possible, okay? So what does quality within that bottom position really mean? Quality means that when you're bottomed out, that there is no reversal, and reversal means in the hips, so that you're not seeing that butt wink. And I want to confirm what that is. Adam's going to have his little take on that here in a minute, but what I want to define that as from my perspective is that there is no question. So it's undebatable whether there is or there isn't. If you're in question whether there is or there isn't, you think you see a tiny bit, I say go ahead and go to that range of motion, because I know with the right stretches between sets, it's going to fix itself really, really quickly. And a lot of times I feel like people that think they have a butt wink really don't. And a lot of times when maybe they have a slight one, it's a matter of setting up correctly to take that out. So if it's in question at all, just go ahead and go through the full range of motion. If you definitely see one, then we need to take a step back and consider a couple things. If the whole back is rounding, so not necessarily a butt wink, but just the whole back rounding, the shoulders coming forward, and everything else, again, we don't want to reinforce that. So, your stretch may be just laying over a foam roller or something like that to offset that. But if we're seeing the lack of quality within that full range of motion, the first thing is that you want to make sure that you've tested all of your elevations. So if you start to lose quality on the level surface or at a medium elevation, but you can maintain quality on the highest elevation, then that tells me that you should stay with all high elevation on all your sets for the first 3 or 4 workouts, and then retest the lower ones again to see if you can start to slowly progress down in elevation and take that out of there, okay? If you've tested all of them and you feel like you're setting up right, you've got the right stretch going, but the quality is still not there on any of them, again, one of the things to consider too is that not only testing all elevations, but testing all types of squats, meaning goblet squat, back squat, and front squat. And depending on the individual, you may have quality with front squat, but not the other two. You may have quality with goblet, but not the other two. So it depends on the individual. Make sure that if you find one that you do have quality with, then again, stick with that one only until you can progress into another one. Another one to consider real quick, just let me go off topic a little bit here, is just getting a plate or a light kettlebell, holding it with arms extended, and doing your contraption squats like that. I find for a lot of people that struggle even with the goblet squat, that one tends to carry a little bit more quality. So try that one as well. But if you tried all those things and the quality is not there on any of them, then you need to start thinking about maybe going to some box squats where you start out high, you're teaching yourself how to set up and move correctly, you're going down to that box, and then over time you're going to try to progress lower and lower, doing that in combinations with the right mobility, and you'll get to the point to where you can use contraption. We'll have a video on box squats and how to progress through those at some point as well. Okay? With that being said, Adam, your take on that, sir.
Okay, so basically the biggest thing that I want to get across in this, in the purpose for contraption, in the purpose for all of these conversations are what does a good squat look like? You know, what are those principles? How do you identify a fault in the squat? How do you fix the fault? And where is it stemming from, right? So the first thing is, if I'm going to do a squat, whether it be in the contraption, whether it be outside, and if I have a butt wink, right? So I'm just going to demo real quick a pretty bad butt wink. So this first one I'm going to do is a bad butt wink. So I'm going to be here. I'm actually just going to pull up my shirt a little bit. Really watch my pelvis as I go down. I'm completely tucked under. My lower back is completely rounded. I'm here. So if I just stood up by verticalizing my shins, this is what my back looks like. Right? So in that bottom of the squat, I'm completely rounded over. There's no tension in my abs. There's no tension in my back. So let's say that's happening to you. Let's say that's happening to an athlete that's coaching. The first question you need to ask was, did that athlete set up correctly? Did that athlete plant his big toe, screw his feet in the ground, have his butt squeezed, initiate by driving the knees out and the hips back, not knees forward? And if the answer is no, then what's the root? The root so far, as we know, is that athlete did not set up correctly. If you did not set up correctly, you're not going to be able to squat correctly. So let's say the athlete was overextending. So if you start overextended, there's no way that you're not going to butt wink in the bottom. So simple, we need to just get that athlete to neutralize his hips. And then let's see. So boom, made that correction. Now I have neutral hips. So now I'm going to stay on tension this whole squat. So here's a neutral spine. Take a step back. I'm just going to demo real quick what a good squat looks like with maintaining a neutral spine. Look at this angle. So this would be a squat that is neutral spine, nothing collapsed, my knees are tracked out, my big toes on the ground. There's a squat, right? There's what we're looking for. So now that athlete understands, okay, hips through, butt squeeze, knees locked, he's going down, he's going down, he's going down, and now all of a sudden right here, he starts to tuck under. Okay, well, he understood how to maintain a neutral spine in the beginning. So what is that? Now we need to look towards, oh, okay, let's, number one, put the athlete in the contraption, right? So if he hit that range of motion, we want him to be more comfortable without cutting his range of motion. So now let's say, okay, he's tracking out, he's tracking out. Now he can comfortably sit down because his heels are elevated, and he can sit in the bottom comfortably in his full range of motion. But full range of motion is relative to where he's at. So what is he missing there? Well, he's missing a mobility piece. Either his ankles are stiff, hips are bad. There is something tight restricting that athlete from hitting full range of motion without the contraption. So the contraption is being used to exaggerate where we want her or him to go. And then now we need to incorporate the mobility along with that so that he can come out in a couple weeks of contraption squatting and squat to a full range of motion without any issue, right? Without any reversal, without any problem. So that's kind of my take and the goal of, okay, this athlete has a fault. Was it in the setup? Was it in the way that he was going down? Okay, we've identified it was in the setup. That's an easy fix because we went through those three principles. Now, okay, it's mobility. Let's contraption that athlete. Let's make sure the heel height or the elevation and the width of the feet are appropriate to what he or she needs. And now we can progress out of it through mobility work, through working with the different levels of contraption.
Perfect, perfect.